You know, if you fish Mojo style baits at all, you know just how effective they can be. But you also know that they're not the cheapest thing in the world either. So today I'm going to walk you through the process of hopefully saving you some money by showing you how you can make your own Mojo style lures. I'm going to walk you through the process of pouring, selecting components, how to paint them, how to put skirts on them, and how to rig them. So stick around, you're not going to want to miss this one. So these are the jigs we're going to be making. These are actually spire point jigs, and they come in all different weights, all the way up to, I believe, 20 or 24 ounce. So this happens to be an 8 ounce weight jig, and the reason I wanted to go with an 8 ounce is because I can use it for casting off the boat with a shad tail on the back or swim bait. And the other reason is I can also use it as a Mojo in tandem with another 4 ounce rig. And I'll show you how to rig those later, how to put everything together. Now this one isn't finished, it's only painted. I have to add the eyes on it and the skirts and rig them up. But I'm going to start off by showing you exactly how we pour these, where to get the molds, and all the other stuff that goes along with it. They're a little bit different than normal jigs because the eye and the hook have to be 2-part. Anything over 8 ounce on these spire points, and it becomes a 2-part rig. Below that, the hook and the eye are all one together. So let's jump over and I'll show you what I use in order to pour these baits, and then we'll go from there. So let's jump right into things. First thing, of course, we need to do is pour the jigs. And so I'm going to show you the whole process for that. I'm not going to go into all the nuances of pouring though. I've got lots of videos on that on my homepage. So I've also got a ton of DIYs, so I encourage you to jump over there when you're done with this video and check out exactly how I go about pouring and all the other things. And one thing I do want to stress here though is safety. Make sure you've got eye protection on. Make sure you're doing this in a ventilated area. I do this in my garage, and I do this on my old router table top. I just put down some protection like plywood on my plastic area, and I run a fan with both garage doors open, so it takes the fumes that are off of here and sends it outside. Lead is very toxic and it can be harmful, so please take the proper protection that you need to do in order to stay safe. We want you safe. So what I have here is I have a lead pot that was given to me by my brother. It's a 10-pound production pot, and it pours from the bottom. When you lift this lever, the lead comes out the bottom, which is really cool. It allows the junk to stay on top, and I can scoop that off occasionally. Now the lead I use, I got from a scrapyard, about an hour and 15 minutes from me, and I was fortunate enough when I got there looking for lead, somebody had gone ahead and poured these ingots just like this, and had sold them to the scrapyard, and I bought about 100 pounds worth of these, and so these are all ready to go. But if you don't have these, you can get lead and use an ingot pot like this and pour your own and out like that, and then that's how they come out, just like these. So I use that when I'm done. If I have a lot left over in the pot, I pour them into those ingot molds and then stack them in my box over here. But anyway, I keep my pot at 7 all the time. I don't run it up and run it down. Just keep it at 7. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes for the lead that's in the pot, and I usually only leave about half in there. And then I just feed the lead in very gently like that, and it will melt down very quickly. Then the next thing I do is, once that lead is melted down, I take a spoon like this, and it's just an old dollar store spoon, and I scoop off all the junk on top. It will float to the top. And as you can see, that's what it looks like, all that garbage stuff that's coated on there. And I just tap it right here in the wood. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll be ready to pour. Now we don't just go ahead and pour this jig. And by the way, this jig happens to be a spire point jig. It's 8 ounce, and there's the model number there for you. It's made by Do It Molds, and I got this on eBay for $25. So it also was $9 shipping, so you know, around there, so you can figure it out. It was about 35 bucks. 36 bucks. So normally if you buy these new, they're $42, and that doesn't include the shipping and stuff. But this was in excellent shape, as you can see inside. Whenever you're pouring these Spire Point jigs, anything 8 ounces and up requires 2 different parts. Requires a number 3 eye like this, and it requires a number 10 O hook. Mustang, this is a 34081. Both of these parts will be listed on the mold. Whatever mold you get, it'll tell you what size hook. If it's 2 parts like this, it'll list them. If it's a single hook, like it's 60 degree, it'll tell you that. And so always check your mold before you order. Now, this is going to go together a little different than just dropping a hook in the mold. We have to put these together, in the mold together, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our mold is hot and heated up. This is a lot of lead to be pouring. It's 8 ounces. So, and we want to make sure everything gets in all the nooks and crannies. So in order to do that, we want this mold hot. And the way I do that is I just close it up. I use the port here, and I just fill it with lead. And then I let it cool for about 30 seconds. I open it up, take it out with a pair of pliers, put it back in the pot, close it up, fill it up again. I do that about 8 to 10 times till this mold is very hot. And the way I can tell it's hot, if I touch it all the way back here, just very quickly touch it, and it's really hot, it's good to pour. You want it hot so that the lead doesn't have time to solidify in one section before the other lead can get in. You want it all to stay molten through the whole pour. Alright, so I've gone ahead and done that. The fans have been going. The pot is up to temperature. Let's do this pour, and I'll show you exactly how I do it. This takes quite a bit because it's 8 ounces in here. And this jig only puts out a small stream. That's why you want this very hot. Almost there. There we go. So as you can see, it doesn't take long, maybe 15-20 seconds. I can open that mold now. And as you can see, it's got a lot of lines and crinkles and valleys in it. It's because this mold isn't hot enough yet. So what we want to do is we take a pair of pliers, and I just pinch that off like that very carefully, put it back in the pot. Now we're going to do that about 8-10 times, and then what's going to happen is this is going to be very hot. That mold's going to flow very smoothly, and once it's there, I'll show you how to put the hooks in. Okay, I did that about 8 times. This is going to be the final pour to get it hot. Now the other thing you can do is you can just set it on the mold like that and leave it like that, but I think pouring the lead through it gets it hotter and it gets it done quicker too. So again, this is going to be the final pour. Now I don't use gloves when I'm pouring because I'm holding on the wood handles. It's certainly recommended to do that, but for me, I like to be able to feel what I'm doing. I guess because I'm klutzy, and I like to be able to have that feel so that I don't spill anything or the mold slips out of my hand. So now I'll show you the difference. You saw what that first pour looked like. Here's what this second pour looks like. This final pour. As you can see, it's nice and smooth. Everything's filled in nice. That's what we want. So now what we're ready to do is go ahead and set the hooks. So the way I do this is I take the hook like this and I face the point down right here. Alright, then I take the number 3 eye, and as you can see there's an opening there, and I force the eye, keeping the hook down, just like that. I force it through that opening. So that's what it looks like. Alright, now that's going to lay in the jig just like this, sideways. Alright, and then we're going to pour it. So it's a little bit tricky. We want it to set like that, okay, if you can see it. So let's zoom in and I'll show you exactly how I put it in. Okay, so what I do now is I take the eye and I just hold the eye in there like that, set the hook in till it's about 90-degree angle to each other. And then what I have to do is put a slight twist on the hook, and the way I do that is lift up the point end just like that. That'll keep everything in there. Now what I do is I close it, and be very careful you don't burn yourself. right like that. And so I know it's closed properly and seated if everything is tight here. All right, now there's one other thing we need to do. If you look at this, see how the hook is crooked in here? You see that? Now we need to rotate that hook back so it's in line with the center of this, just like this. And I'm going to bring it over, just like that, so it's in that. There's a very thin line where the two halves come together. I make sure that the point of the hook is lined up with that, and then when I pour it, I know it's going to be straight. So now that I've done that, got everything lined up, now we can make our first pour. And again, it's a lot in here, so especially if you're doing 20-ounce jigs or more, you really want to make sure this mold is hot. So I'll give that a second to solidify right there, and we'll open it up. And before this gets really hot, you can grab them by the hook like that and take them out. They won't get very hot, but you can see how nice they came. We'll set that baby down there. Now it's just a matter of repeating the process. So there's one other thing I wanted to share with you, and that is that for the eyes, there are two different materials you can get it in. This one is stainless, that one is brass. The stainless is a little tougher, and because I'm fishing in salt water, I think a little bit more durable. But these are more than sufficient as well, and I'll put links where you can get the brass ones anyway in the description below. So just something I thought I'd point out to you. Okay, so now that I've taken the last one out of the mold and these have all cooled down, what I want to do is remove this sprue. And this is that portion right here where the lead went in, but it's what's left over. And as you can see, it's thinner along the edges, so I want to go against the thin part. I want to go this way when I break it off, not lengthways. And so I have a pair of vice grips here. They do really well. You just grab it like that, and then very carefully, you don't poke yourself with the hook, you just gently move it back and forth a few times, and all of a sudden, poof, it breaks right off, and it gives you a nice edge. I will touch this up with a file just to make sure it's nice and smooth, and the next thing we'll do is get ready to paint these. Okay, to get things going here for painting, I'm going to show you how I do it. I'd like to use powder coat paint. It's far more superior than if you just spray painted your lures and hit them with some lacquer. It really resists chipping. It's extremely durable. It gives a beautiful finish, and it's really not that expensive to do. I use, for my white, I get this at Harbor Freight. This is a powder coat paint that comes in white and black. They have it there. 16 ounces for about $8, which is really a good deal. If you want to go with specialty colors like this chartreuse, then this is 2 ounces. You can also buy this in pound jars as well, but this 2 ounces goes for about the same price, about $7. And you might need 2 of these to do this. This is a fluid bed that I saw another YouTuber make, and I'll leave a description down below how you can make these. These are really inexpensive. They're about $3 a piece to make, and all it is some PVC pipe, an aquarium valve right here, and a piece of copy paper in there. And so I'll give you a link to his video so you can watch that at the end and get some ideas how you can make your own. It also uses an air bubbler, which almost every fisherman has, and this happens to be a 110 model, but you could also use the battery operated portable ones as well. So I also use a heat gun, and I also use a torch, just like this one. All right, this happens to be a automatic start MAP gas torch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the torch to heat this up quicker. You can do the whole thing on a heat gun. It just takes a little longer. And when you have a bunch to do, it saves some time. But what you want to do is you only want to heat the back. You don't want to heat this eyelet up. You want to bring the flame on the back and let the heat absorb to that eyelet. It only takes about 10 seconds using the torch. I'm going to dip it then, and I'm going to finish it off in the heat gun. All right, in order to hold everything so I don't burn my fingers, I just use a pair of vice grips like this, and set it on there, give it a good clamp. So I'm going to heat the back of this only for about 9-10 seconds, dip it. I'm going to tap the hook back here to any little flake of paint that's on there fall off. Then I'll finish it on the gun and hang them up. There we go. Just like that. Now I'll turn the gun on. And this is going to give a really nice finish. Now, most of the time I bake these afterwards, but being these jigs are so big, it might be hard to get in my oven. I use a toaster oven specifically for baking these that my son gave me to save money. And so I just want to heat this up, let the paint flow around there, make sure I got everywhere. And that'll give a nice finish. That's what it looks like. Now I'll hang this one up, continue down the line. Okay, so the next step we want to do is we want to put these skirts on the tail. And there's a couple of things that does. Gives action, okay, as the water's coming across. And also it expands the profile of the jig, so it makes it look like a fat bunker. And that's what we're trying to get at. You could hook certainly the swim tail just on the back of the jig, you know, just like a plain jig like this, and just hook it on there. But you know, it's not going to give you the action or the profile. So now I've priced around, there's different materials you can use for this, and I'm old school. I really like bucktail. Why? Because it's extremely durable, it's pretty inexpensive. Bucktail comes just like this. This is a natural bucktail. It's actually the tail of a deer, and you can get it all different colors. Like this happens to be chartreuse, and I can get about 7 jigs of this size, these 8-ounce jigs, with one bucktail. So it runs about $1 a skirt for me, because I can, you know, I can get them anywhere from, you know, if I harvest a deer, it's free, but you know, if I have to buy it, they run anywhere from between $5 and $8. So it's about $1 for a skirt. Now you can certainly buy nylon here, and nylon here is just straight pieces of nylon about 8 inches, and you would tie that on with it facing this way, not back. And then what would happen is when you put it in the water, that hair would curl back and it sort of act like a pulse like this. They call it parachute style. And they're very effective. But it's about $20 for a bundle, and you're probably going to get about 8-9 jigs out of it, so it's over double. And I would just like the bucktail. It catches fish, no problem. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be adding the bucktail on here, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. So let me just grab another jig. Now you'll notice right off that this jig has a 10-aught hook on it. It's a pretty big hook. You can see how fat it is. Now if you would try and use a regular fly tying vise like this, it's not going to fit in the slot, okay? Just won't do it. That other one is great for bucktails up to 4 ounces, but when I want to go something heavier like this, I have to use a bench vise, and this is nothing more than a clamp-on bench vise. You know, you have the big ones that bolt to a table. This is just a little 4-inch vise. You can get them probably a little smaller, 3-inch, but it has a clamp on it, and these jaws open up really wide. So what I'm going to do is just utilize this. It works out really well for me. I want to make sure that the hook is in pretty far back, because I'm going to be putting some tension on this. And there we go. All right. Now what I like to do to start off with this is, you'll notice there's a collar back here that flares up. That's really going to help to make our hair or skirt stand out. And so what I start off with is, this is a bobbin. It's used to hold the thread. They're about $7 or $8. I'd recommend you get one of these if you're going to be doing any amount of tying. You could hold the thread in your hand. I used to do that when I first started, but the bobbin really helps. And basically it keeps tension on the thread and feeds it out as you need it. And then for the thread, I like using a red or a pink like this, all right? Color. I like a bright color here that represents like a blood of a gill or something along that line. And I'd recommend use like a 3/0 nylon, But you can, this is actually a 6/0, and it's because I ran out of the 3/0. I was tying some of these up. And I want to show you, you can do it with a 6/0, which is a real fine thread. You just have to be a little careful. Now to start it, all you're going to do is lay it over the top, hold the back end like this, and just wrap it onto itself like that. And work your way back. And once you get back about yay far, all you have to do is take yourself a pair of scissors and give it a snip. Alright? So now that I have the thread started on here, I like to stay same color. So if I have a chartreuse head, I like to have a chartreuse skirt. If I have a white head, I like to have a white skirt, and so forth. I like to try and keep everything the same. I also like to keep the bodies the same too, so the shad will be chartreuse as well. Sometimes I'll mix them up while I'm out in the field, but most of the time I keep them the same. And I'll run one color on one side of the boat and another color on the other side of the boat to see which is most productive. Okay, so now that I've shown you this, and you can see that that collar's there, it's going to help us. I got the thread started on here. What I'm going to do is I'm grabbing this chartreuse bucktail right here, and what you want to do is you'll notice there's brown on this side and the chartreuse. You want to try and, you don't want to mix the hairs like this, okay? You want to just take up the chartreuse hairs, and you take a pinch off just about like that, all right? And I cut it all the way back to the skin back here, all right? And you don't want to take a huge bundle. Now what I want to do is I want to hold it back a little farther and just pull out any of these shorter fibers, put them in my bag here. I don't want to bulk things up for no reason, so take that and then I just cut this off a little bit just to trim it up, make it even, just like that. Now I'll start on this side so you can see. Alright, and all I'm going to do is lay the hair against like that. I'm going to take a loose wrap over the top. Alright, and just snug it a little bit, and then another loose wrap and snug it, and now there you go. Now I can tighten this up with about 3 or 4 more wraps, and I come back a little bit. Now I'll just spread that out where I want it. And as you can see, a little hair, as you spread it out on there, will really open things up. It'll give you that profile you need, and you don't need a ton of hair on here. Alright, so now what I'll do is I got a little more hair here, clean it up. Now I'm going to lay this on top, just like this. Same thing. Now I want to pull this hair in. I want to marry them all the way around so that they're nice and even up against one another. So now you can see, let me show you that collar in action. As I come back and I pull on that hair, watch what happens. See, it starts to climb back up. That's what we want. Now I'll take another bite of hair. Just like that. And I'll add this on this side. There we go. Spread that out. Now, don't worry about this hair that's up in here. We're going to trim that up a little later, okay? So I'll put one more there. Just like that. Pull out any loose hairs. Okay. Very good. Now that I have that all set up on this side, all I'm going to do is take a pair of scissors and I'm going to go up through here and I'm just going to trim this off. Just like that. And that way it'll allow me to bring the thread to finish it up right up through there. So I got a little bit more right here. There we go. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to loosen up the vise and I want to flip it over. Just like that. The reason for that, it just allows me to see what I'm doing a little more. Let me bring this down for you. Okay, and now we just continue through and we'll add on the rest of the hairs. All right. Again, I'm going to fan them out a little bit. And 3 or 4 wraps, and then we just keep moving along. And you can see how quickly this goes. A couple more. You can actually bang these out pretty quick. Alright, and this one here should do it. Now, what I do is I get it started on there, see that? And now I'm going to just pull it around. Just like this. Spread it out. I'm going to put just a little bit more down there on that one side. Go and pull this up a little bit. Okay. You can see that hair coming up as I go back farther on this. See it? Keeps pulling it up. You just want to keep enough tension on there where it's tightening each time you do it, okay? Now just trim off anything in here. Okay, now we're going to just keep wrapping this back. And again, you just want to keep constant pressure on here as you're coming forward. You're going to go back over it again. I'm trying to get everything covered up in here. Now this 6/0 thread, I have to do more wraps because it's a thinner consistency. You see why this bobbin is very helpful. It just keeps feeding the thread as I need it. Alright, that looks good. You can see how that hair is almost standing up 90 degrees here. It really bites it. Now I'm going to show you how I whip finish. What I like to do is I use my fingers to whip finish. And so I pull the thread this way, put my fingers on top like this. Just like that. Just grab the thread this way with 2 fingers. And I bring it back over. And then I twist my fingers. And as you can see, there's a piece of thread here. Okay, going to the bobbin. And this is the other thread back here. Right here. That goes to what we wrapped around the hook. And what I want to do is I want to keep the one with the bobbin parallel to the jig. And then I just want to take this and put that thread over the top. And then I want to twist my fingers again. Alright, and put it over the top again. And twist my fingers again, put it over the top of the time. I want to see how I keep the bobbin straight. And I'll just do that about, if I need more, I just pull on the bobbin. And I do that about 6 or 7 times, just like that. Alright. Then what I like to do is I take my bodkin like this. This is the bodkin, just a little needle on a something to hold it, and I bring it up and I just pull that up and I just pull that hair back out of there. Don't need that hair in there. Alright, and I just work it a little bit, right like that, and give it a snip. Alright, now that thread is secure on there. Alright. If you got a few hairs in there, you can cut them out later or pull them out. It's not a big deal. Okay, here we go. And then what I do is I just take a head cement. This happens to be Loon's. It's a water base. You can use any kind you want. Alright, and I just coat those threads. You could even use super glue for this if that's all you had. All right, I like to really just lay it on there so it actually just comes around to the bottom side. All right, like that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add our eyes. And I get these eyes from Rock Island. They're all different colors, all different sizes. And they are just a stick-on eye, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of super glue, hardly any at all, and just put it there, just like that. Even though these have stick on them, this is a very slick powder coat paint, so it doesn't want to stick well. So now I just take the eye like this, and I'm just going to lay it in the super glue. And you don't want to go too big with the eye, all right? Because you want to fit in that dimple. And so now that it's in there, you can see anything that comes by goes over the top of it. So that's really going to help secure that. And I've already put this side on right here like that. And that's what the finished jig looks like. Now, you could do one more thing if you choose to, and that is you could dip these in a clear coat and let them hang to dry. And what that'll do is it'll allow all that clear coat to get all around that eye to really protect it. I dip them all the way up to the skirt right there, and it does a really good job of protecting things. Okay, let me show you how I rig these baits. It's really quite simple. Now I happen to have a 9-inch swim bait on here, swim shad. All right, for the 8 ounces and bigger, I like to go with the 9-inch right here. If these are like my 4-ounce bucktails that I use for the upper portion of my Mojo tandems, I like to go with a 6-inch bait. All right, and all I like to do is you have the eye here, you place the jig facing down, you place the bait facing up, you put the back to the eye, just like that. All right, now it's just a matter of going right through the top of here, and I go down to where the bait just starts to come around the hook like that. You can see that there. And now what I want to do is I want to look here on the back, and you'll see a seam that goes down the back right here. All right, what I want to do is I want to just work the hook point while I'm pushing it around so it comes out right in the middle of that seam, just like that. You can see that there maybe. Okay, and now as I push it completely through, that's what you want. You want that bait to lay on there relaxed. You don't want it bunched up like this or this way. You want it to lay just relaxed, just like that. And that's how you run that bait, okay? Now the other thing you can do is right here at the tail portion, okay, is to take a rattle insert and shove it in there at an angle. While that is going back and forth, that's going to make a vibrating rattle sound and help attract fish too as well. You might want to do that in some and not in others to see if it's effective for the day, but basically that's how it is. Now, what I like to do is on this heavier jig, this 8 ounce, I like to put an angler's clip here, run 3 feet of leader up to a 3-way swivel. And from that, I like to run 6 feet of leader to another tactical angler clip. And on that one, I put a 4-inch bucktail hair jig with a 6-inch bait on it. And so this one will run lower, the other one will run higher. Then to deploy them, all you do is you thumb out your spool on your reel. You drop the longer bait in the water, the 4-inch. Let that trail back, then lower the heavier bait. And then let everything carry back very slowly until you feel it hit bottom. Once you feel it hit bottom, then it's just a matter of holding on to that reel. Let the bait come up a little bit. Let it back out again until it hits bottom a second time. And at that point, lock up your reel. The angle will then come back up. The bait will be in the strike zone or close to it. You might have to let it out a third time, or you might want to run it once it hits the bottom the first time. And that'll give you an idea. Wherever you start catching fish, that's where you want to stay. take note of what depth you're in. These probably run best, at least where I fish, in about 20 feet of water, 25, you know, on the edges of the channel. And you want to run them between 2 and 3.5 miles per hour, depending on which way you're going, whether you're trolling with the current or against the current. And so you have to experiment a little bit to see what's good for that day. But anyway, hope that helps you keep you on track, and hope you get some fish. So guys, thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with me today. You know, I don't think there's any more satisfaction that we get out of the outdoors than creating our own baits or creating something else that we use, whether it's for hunting or fishing, and then harvesting game with that. You know, we inside of us are just natural creators. We build houses, we build spaceships, we build submarines, we build all these different things, gadgets for the kitchen. You know, anything to make our life easier. We are creators. And the reason we're creators is because God made us that way. You know, it says in the Bible, God was speaking and he said, let us create man in our own image. You know, God created us to be creators as well. And you know, I speak at a lot of different churches, or I have in the past. And you know, I remember handing out 3x5 cards and asking people to put on their greatest fears, their greatest hurts, and their greatest dreams. And you know, the number one thing that people came up with for fear was the fear of failure. You know, and I started to think why that was. Well, I think because failure is coupled with rejection. And you and I, in our life, long to feel good about ourselves. We long to feel good about things we've done. And when we fail and other people reject us, it's a reflection on who we are. But it's really not. You know, who we really are and our worth is not found in the things we do. It's not found in whether we catch fish or whether people like us or not. Our worth is really found in how much God loves us. You know, I don't know whether you realize it or not, but he does. You know, and even if you and I are the worst sinners in the world, God loves you and he loves me so much that he was willing to send his son Jesus Christ to rescue us from that sin, to buy us back so we could have a right relationship with him. And so the most important thing in life isn't really how much we can make and keep in the bank and how many things we own, how big our boat is or our house. The most important thing is whether or not you and I are forgiven by a God who loves us and where we're going to spend eternity. And you know, it's really quite simple to know that for a fact, where we're going to live forever. You know, the Bible says that these things I have written unto you that believe in the name of the Son of God, that you might know that you have eternal life. And it goes on and it says, he who has the Son, meaning Jesus, has life, and he who does not have the Son does not have life. It's pretty simple. You know, so I ask you today, do you have Jesus in your life? Do you have God's forgiveness? Do you have God's assurance of his love? Or are you continuing to strive and try and create something that isn't going to be lasting? You know, if you're not sure about how to go about having that relationship, well, I've written a free book for you. It's very short. It's about 16 pages, and it's in the description below. It's called Growing Deep. And in it, I share with you a little bit about my life, how I came to know Christ, and more importantly, about the scriptures and how you can walk with God on a daily basis and have your sins forgiven and know where you will spend all eternity. So again, the book is called Growing Deep. You can just click on it and start reading. It doesn't require your email or anything else to capture, and it's yours free. I've also got several other books back there that walk you through some of life's struggles and issues like cancer and how God healed me of that and walked me through that struggle, and depression and some other things, and how they can all point you back to God. So no matter where you are in your life, I would encourage you to just take the time to check out those books to see if one of them might be something that you might be in need of right now. So guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate all you do. I appreciate your support, your comments, you know, your likes, your subscriptions. They all mean a lot to growing this channel. and helping us not only share you about how you can deepen your outdoor experience through DIYs and a bunch of other things, but also give us the opportunity to share the gospel of God's love with more and more people. So until next time, always remember that God loves you more than you could ever know. So remember to get outdoors, and God bless.